So, we've got a new little setup, but don't get too excited, it's not the best news. Aha! Oh, can you see me? Yes, YouTube, welcome back to another video and thanks for joining me. So we sat in front of the Firebelly's enclosure, one of my favourite setups as you guys know, and I wasn't planning on making this video today, but we'll go into that a little bit more in detail in the rest of the video. But for those of you new to the channel, this is my Firebelly toad setup and it houses my 4 Firebelly toads, 2 males, 2 females, and we also got some white cloud mountain minnows and some blue dream shrimp in there as well, which I added the last couple of months. Now this tank's been doing really well and I've had the Firebellies for quite some time and this is one of my favourite and oldest enclosures. But even though I've had them probably coming up to 5 years now, I would have thought, you know, you get to that point where you feel like you know what you're doing, and you get in a routine, you think that's going well until it doesn't, and I experienced that this week. So if you want to know a little bit more what's been going on, then make sure you stay tuned because that's coming up in today's video. So, we've got a new little setup, but don't get too excited, it's not the best news. So, after I filmed last week's video, which was the Rainforest room tour video, if you haven't seen that yet, go and check that, leave a link down in the description. After that, I was just pottering around with the Firebelly's enclosure, just doing a water change and some general maintenance. And I noticed one of the female Firebelly toads was just didn't seem right. So she was sort of laying on top of plants or floating on the water, and she just had one shoulder dropped and her head was to one side, and I just didn't think too much of her at first. And as I was going through the tank, I disturbed her and she jumped into the water, and that's where it became apparent straight away that there was something seriously wrong. So when she jumped into the water, she was spiraling and swimming in somersaults and just all over the place really, and that's the point where I was like, there's something wrong here. So my initial thought was, when seeing her drop her shoulder and lean to one side, that, you know, she may have injured her front leg, because from time to time the Firebellies pull each other around and things like that, so that could have happened. But it didn't seem any injuries, didn't seem any swelling on her arms or anything like that. So I didn't have a clue what it was. So I quickly went onto Facebook groups, Reddit communities and various different sources and online, and there was nothing really out there that sort of told me what it was or what it could be, and there's very little information on Firebelly toad illness, probably because they're quite hardy generally. But I finally got some responses on some of the Facebook groups, and the name of the person that eludes me, unfortunately, who got in touch with me, but basically had a similar issue in the past and turned out to be a calcium or vitamin deficiency. So first of all, I was a bit hesitant to go along with that advice, just because, as you guys know, you know, I dust the feeders constantly with calcium, vitamins, you know, calcium without D3, and they get their cycles the same as any of the other animals. And I also don't always free roam the feeders in there, they get tongue fed, and obviously I feed them from bowls. So there's 3 different ways to get fed, so I found that difficult to believe. But the only other explanation, as far as I can see, is it could be neurological, or she could have had a stroke of some kind. So I'm not too proud to say that that might be an issue. She may not have had enough calcium, even though I can't see why she wouldn't have enough to cause this big of an issue. That's what I'm going to be looking at dealing with at the moment. I'm going on the basis that it is a calcium deficiency and just trying to get that back into her. So the last couple of days I moved her into this little tank, just set up a simple little water bowl and made a little hide cave for her to get out of the way, but it's not quite as apparent when she's on land there's something wrong, other than as she sits leaning to one side, her shoulders dropped and her head's bobbed to one side. So It could be neurological, which is nothing I can do about it, but at the moment I'm going to go on the basis there is a calcium or vitamin deficiency. Now yesterday I did have to force feed her because she wasn't eating, which was quite difficult to be fair, such a small animal, and trying to get their mouths open and put food in. But it was tested with calcium and vitamin powder, so I'm hoping that will help. But at the moment it's just a case of keeping an eye on her, making sure that we keep her as comfortable as we can, and hopefully we'll learn what it is. Hopefully we'll get her back to health. But not the greatest of news, but I thought I owed it to you guys to make a video on this, because when I was researching what was wrong, there was very little information on sicknesses and illnesses for fire-bellied toads, probably because they're so hardy and they don't tend to come up with a lot of problems. But I thought at least document this, and if somebody else comes across the same issue, then potentially have something to glean to and hopefully help their frogs out as well. So for those who've been following the channel a while, you'll know that this is my panther chameleon's enclosure, and we haven't long made this enclosure as the most recent setup we've made. And I'll leave the build playlist down in the link in the description as well. But as always with any of these bioactive setups, I don't make them, finish them and leave them. I think they need to be long-term projects, just because you're not always going to get everything spot on the first time around. Now, we've done a lot of change with this in the last couple of months. We've upgraded the lighting, heating, and all the rest of it, and you can find all those videos in my channel. But something else I want to add in here is more climbing opportunities and space for Bert to sort of maneuver around the tank, just because he's getting a little bit older now. He probably doesn't utilize the climbing space on the background and on the sides as much as he used to. So what I want to do is make it a lot easier for him, and let's be fair, it's his retirement home. Let's make things as easy as we can for him. But we're going to not be using any natural stuff, which you guys would normally be used to, and I'm using fake. But all I would say is I've seen these in the shop, and I don't normally like fake, but these look so realistic, and I'll put some proper shots up so you can see them. But yeah, there's fake moss on there, but they tend to look really good. So I thought I'd give them a go. The name of the company is Reptile is the name of the company. I'll try and find links to them. I found it difficult to find them online because I got these from my local reptile store. But I think adding these in will help Bert get around the tank a little bit more. So why don't we go ahead now? I've got about 4 of these. We're not going to use them all. We'll see how it looks. And we'll crack on with the rest of the video. Okay, so we're back at the desk. Now we've got the fire bellies in this little glass old tank we used to use. Now, the reason I've done this is just because since we've learned about the sick fire belly, I just want to make sure that these have enough calcium and vitamins, even though I was happy with this schedule before, and these are the 3 oldest ones we've had, and the originals, so they all seem to be fine, and they seem to be fat, so they've obviously been eaten, but I just want to make sure there's enough calcium and vitamins in them now, so we're going to change the way I feed them. And I'll be making adjustments to make sure we stay on top of this, because the last thing I want is for them to get sick and it was my fault. So why don't we go ahead and start feeding them now. So all I've done is I've lost the lid for my feeding jar. So I've got some crickets in there, which I've just used this little jar to keep them in. So give them a shake. Oh, there's eco earth dust everywhere. Okay, so they're all full of calcium now. So the only things I use this mineral, which is a mineral supplement, and I'll put the links in the description for that. The only other one then uses the Reptivite. Again, I'll leave links in the description, and then use the Arcadia calcium powder. So I've mixed all 3 in, give them a good shake around. So why don't we add the crickets in now to mix the fire bellies have their food and watch them go nuts. So they seem to be happy chasing the crickets round, and I'm just going to keep an eye on them to make sure they've all had some, but looking at their bellies, they've all been eaten. So whether the one just got weaker and wasn't eaten properly, I don't know, but these seem to be doing well, which is the main thing. These are the originals, not that the other one doesn't matter, but I'm just glad it only affected the one, because that's what just makes me think it couldn't be calcium, but then these ones are fatter, so it could be, who knows. But I'll do anything I can to try and make the situation better for them. So we will be changing some things in the future, like maybe we'll be feed more like this going forward, which at the end of the day is quite cool actually, because you can sit and watch them eat and enjoy it. And they seem to be happy, to be fair. Most of the crickets are gone, and obviously they added healthy dust in a calcium and vitamin supplements. And they seem to just be walking all over the toads as well, but they seem to be happy enough. So once they've had their fill now, I'll put them back into their enclosure. But I thought this wasn't the video I intended to make. I wanted to give you an update on one of the scapes I've already started on, and you might have seen a tea towel hanging on the back of it in the background, just because I didn't want you to see what's happened so far. Now, I do have some other news as well, which I've got some shelving to go in the alcove now. Now, originally I was going to get a nice piece of furniture made and something really, really special and just a sort of centerpiece of this room. I'm not doing that right now, just because I don't know whether I should talk about this now. All I'll say is me and my fiance have been considering what the Rainforest Room 3.0 is going to be. So, really exciting. It's not going to happen for a while, probably for another year or so. But the last thing I want to do is invest a lot of money into this room and specifically care out specifically for this room when I'm not going to be able to use it anywhere else. So we're in the process at the moment of trying to work out what is the best to free up, well, one, to free up this room and have a dedicated space for it, because it's not ideal upstairs like this because there's weight restrictions. And we are just looking into it at the moment. So I didn't want to put a hold on some of the projects I wanted to get done. I'm still going to do the ADA rack, but it's just not going to be on some fancy shelving. So I've got some shelving from Amazon which turned up today. So I'll be putting that together in the next couple of videos. But I also want to get a video out on the 30C so you can see that as well. So that'll be coming very soon. Obviously we want to stock that, and I'm probably going to stock it with Pewdie Ember Tetras and Green Jade Shrimp. So want to highlight Tetras like I mentioned to you in past videos. Also, then one of the biggest priorities then is getting the ball python vivarium set up and making that completely bioactive setup and giving him finally some nice space to explore and a home that I'm actually proud of to give him. So that's coming up. He's currently going through shed at the moment. He fed a couple of days ago, but he's doing really well. So I just want to give you a quick update on what's going on today. I thought it was important that I shared some of the findings I had with the fire bellies, just in case anybody else had issues like this. As always though, if you've experienced these issues or you know what this might be, then please leave suggestions or comments in the comment section below, because the more I learn, the better it'll be. And I'm quite disappointed really, there's not that much out there to help this situation, but we'll do what we can to keep the frog healthy and keep it as happy as we can for the time being. But as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today. If you can do me a massive favour, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button and our notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As well, if you can leave a comment and share this video, it massively helps me out and to try and build and work towards the weird YouTube algorithm. So that'll be massively appreciated, and drop me a like as always. But I'll carry on trying to do weekly uploads. I'm trying to get a backlog of videos made, just so that we can start to increase the uploads again, but it doesn't take up so much of my time like I explained in the last video. If you want to know more about that, and go and check out the last Rainforest room tour. But that's enough of me waffling on. I think the frogs have had a good time, they've had a good feed. There's about 3 crickets left in there now, and I think they're almost ready to go back. So, enough from me for today and the frogs, and we'll see you in the next video.